Hello.
Hey there.
Thank you for joining us for Jesse and Melva Live. We're so glad that you're joining us today, and we are very excited about what we're going to be sharing with you. And let's start off giving them like an overview. Let's see, we have some slides. Is that first slide handy? So the four things that we are going to do today is, next one, is we're going to talk about one of the fundamentals of success in love, marriage, and life. Because when we talk about relationships, people are in relationships in a variety of places, at work, with their families, with their friends, with the person at the cleaners. You know, we're in multiple relationships.
Right.
And so the three fundamentals that we're going to talk about for the next 3 sessions are related to what is important to have in place, because we talk about how to be your best self. And so these are some qualities and part of the foundation that we believe works in relationship. And we're pulling all that together from all these years of our professional experience, working as counselors and workshop leaders, public speakers, blah, 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 as well as our own personal experience in our marriage. We're also going to, we have a question that someone had asked earlier that we're going to answer. And we're also going to, Jesse's going to take you through a guided imagery. So we're going to give you some ideas about how to apply that first fundamental, which is safety. It is crucial in relationships, all relationships. And then we're going to offer a complimentary consultation at the end. So let's get started, Mr. J.
All right.
So fundamental number 1 is safety.
Safety, yes. Because if you don't feel safe in a relationship, what that's going to do is trigger the reptilian brain, part of your brain, so you become reactive instead of connecting. And so it's important that each individual have a way of being able to keep themselves safe so that they can be in a place that they can reestablish connection when it's temporarily lost, and they can move forward.
Yes, and so, and we're going to tell you exactly how that applies to what we're going to share with you today. So we have a belief system. It's based on a theory of the foundation of our work. And that is that relationships, romantic relationships, love and marriage, go through 3 predictable stages. Actually, many couples, 50%, I think that's what the research says, only make it to stage 2. And so what happens is, in the very beginning, stage 1, that's the stage where the attraction, and you fall in love, and you have this wonderful romantic experience. Everything is going well. And if your partner frustrates you, then it's like you don't pay as much attention to that as you do all the other good things that are going on. I know I used to say things were going well in the romantic stage, and then we have this little issue about time. But anyway, so what I would say was, I don't like it, but
I'll fix it.
I'll change that after we get married. So that was in stage 1. And then when we got married, and the 4 of us moved under the same roof, and all of those warm fuzzies and things that I kind of put to the side, and I know that Jesse put to the side and just kind of ignored, all of that stuff came to the surface, and we started getting on each other's nerves. And so in that context, we were definitely in stage 2. I mean, got 4 different personalities under the same roof, sometimes conflicting needs, definitely different lifestyles about ordering the home and what gets done and by whom and all that kind of thing. So in the midst of that second stage, and we knew about it beforehand, we just thought it was going to be easy sailing for us, because before we became a couple, we spent a whole year, and even before that, we were in stuff individually. We spent a whole year taking personal and spiritual development classes. So we thought, we had this down pat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were faced with the same thing that all couples face. It's like things kind of change when you get in that second stage. And so what Jesse was saying about safety is like when we had a different point of view, all four of us, the brain triggered a signal that something was off, and the fact that we weren't on the same track yet, that there was a threat. And so we were all in survival stage. So the good news is that we figured out what was going on and figured out what to do about it, which helped us to go to stage 3. Now, stage 3 is being in alignment with each other, having harmony, more positive experiences than negative experiences, less criticism, more asking for what you want straight. That's the taste of what stage 3 looks like. So what were you going to say about stage 2?
Well, I was going to say it's a lot easier to create a safe space when you're not in the same room or the same house.
Right.
So you can go to your place of retreat and think about whatever it is that's been going on and decide to make a new approach.
Right. Absolutely.
So just wanted to say, but once we came together, because we always knew we loved each other. Mm-hmm. And that was not only true in my love for Melva, but also for our boys and Melva. I mean, they were deeply in love, and they expressed that and showed that to her in a variety of different ways. I won't take the time now to get some examples, but I could. But she knows what I mean.
And I don't want to get all mushy right now.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to start the waterworks. Okay, so what we knew theoretically about everybody else, but had not really taken in for ourselves, is that when we were in that second stage, what we were really dealing with was a feeling of disconnection. And that's what safety is all about. And that's why unconsciously we become reactive, because feeling disconnected hurts. And it hurts on a energetic level. And a lot of people don't know that that's what it is. They'll say, it's so interesting when working with couples and even working with individuals and families, that the primary complaint that they have is that they're angry about such and such and such and such. But really, that's the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
We know when a person tells us how frustrated they are, how angry they are, that beneath the surface, that they're really feeling disconnected. And feeling disconnected hurts, and it hurts a lot. And then people try to have a conversation. I mean, they're in conflict and they try to have a conversation. And that never works, because when you're flooded with a lot of emotions, the logical part of your brain is just not available. It's like it's on the back burner, So what we learned, and that's what the third part of the brain talks about. So we're talking about the safety part of the brain that looks for survival. We're talking about the emotional part of the brain that is always asking the question, does this person really care about me? Does this person respect me? Do I feel connected to this person? And then the third part of the brain asks, what can I learn from this? Now, it's not what can the other person learn from this. It's what can I learn from this about me? What can I learn about my reaction? What does that tell me about my growth and development and showing up in a way that's going to bring some kind of resolution, that's going to contribute to some kind of peace? So when we got all of that straight, because we knew how to do it in the office, when we got all of that straight, then we came up with a way to interrupt the pattern. Because something that you do over and over again that doesn't work becomes a pattern. So we found a way to interrupt that. And the way that we learned how to interrupt that supported us being in a place to get to the bottom of it, which was identifying what it was that we were needing in that particular situation.
Right.
And whatever words we used, what we really needed in that moment was to repair that rupture that we had between us and reconnect on some kind of way, and to do it faster and faster and faster. And so to prepare ourselves, we came up with some steps that we would like to share with you. We came up with 5. We also have one that's a little shorter, but we want to give you 5 just to give you an idea of the process that we use, because you want to get safe so that you can get to that connection part, so that you can get to feeling the love that you really have for each other. Okay, Jesse, what's number 1?
Okay. Number 1, how we became a source of safety for ourselves and the other person. First, we resolved to be a resource, a source of safety in the love, marriage, and life.
So we decided that instead of concentrating on the other person becoming safe, that we needed to become safe individually, that we wanted to be a source of safety for ourselves and for the other person. Because when either one of us was reactive, either shutting down or striking out, raising, I guess I was the only one that raised their voice. But anyway, when it got to that point, then we were not a source of safety. We were wounding each other. So that was the first step. The second step was, next slide. The second thing that we do is that we decided to create a safe space within to retreat to. Because in the heat of the moment, it's like you're not feeling safe, but people stay into that energy. They're flooded with all these negative energies, and it gets worse. So it's so important to retreat from feeling all of those. Well, you have to have a space to calm down. So we both had our own safe space to calm down so that we could process what was going on and be aware of all the negative feelings and all the negative thoughts, because in that moment, the other person was definitely the enemy, because we were looking through the lens of our survival part of our brain. And so to calm down, then we could get clear about what it is that was going on within us, and then get clear about what it was that we wanted from the other person to repair the disconnect and reconnect again. Because you probably noticed in your own lives that when communication breaks down between you and an important person in your life, in the moment, it's really rough. And when you take time out, and actually it's like the next day or what have you, it's like you feel different. And so when you have the conversation, you can do it in a calm way, unless you trigger each other again, and then you go back to that process. Okay, that was number 2. Okay, number 3.
All right. So number 3 is we both decided to set a positive intention to be a source of safety in inviting the results we wanted. We think that's really important, because many of us simply go through life and our relationships kind of like believe we get whatever it is, without making a point that whatever we get is what we also give, and that if we're continuing to expect the other person to change in order for us to feel better, that's not going to happen. And so we have to take control of our own minds and our own thoughts and desires and so forth. And then, what's that saying? You give what you get what you want. You get what you give.
Mm. Mm.
So if there's a certain kind of reaction or response that you want, then it's important that you give that to the other person, no matter how challenging it might be. In fact, that really provides you for an opportunity for personal growth and development.
So that response is like kind,
Mm-hmm.
respectful,
Mm-hmm.
positive, or
Right.
well, all of these are positive, kind, and
Mm-hmm.
respectful, caring.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. And number 4. So number 4 is that once we got really clear about how to show up as a in a more positive way, as a source of safety, meaning that we weren't going to come back and criticize and finger point and that kind of thing. We're going to come back and describe our experience of what was going on in that particular situation, and then ask for what it is that we want. And sometimes it's hard to get clear on that. I know the very first time you asked me, we were having an argument about something, and you asked me what it is that I wanted. I had no idea, and I was mad at you because you didn't know. So anyway, so after we get that figured out and go to stage number 4, then it's important to have a way, the words, the language, to invite the other person um, to give you what you want in a loving, caring, and kind way when you do re-engage. So you show up as a safe person, and when you make your invitation, you make it in a safe way, and it raises the likelihood that you're going to have positive results. And it definitely is going to be a mile marker every time you do it. It's going to be a mile marker and a milestone, mile marker and milestone toward stage 3, meaning having a relationship that flows. You know, it doesn't mean that you won't have ups and downs. It means that when you have them, that you'll repair them right away and keep moving forward. Okay, number 5.
All right. Number 5. Okay. We rehearsed our new message and noticed what it felt like to bring being a source of safety and a critical part of our best self to the tab.
To the table.
Oh.
That's the typo on my part. Sorry about that. So we do this thing called Beatitudes. And Beatitudes, they are a reflection, they're ideas about how to show up in love, marriage, and life in a variety of positive ways. And so one of the ways that it's really important to show up is a person who presents themselves as being safe. And we know about the law of attraction. We know about like begets like, what have you. And if showing up as a safe person and deciding that I am going to be a source of safety, that disarms another person who's coming from a negative place, because it takes 2 people to argue. It takes 2 people to be in the cycle of criticism, finger pointing, and that kind of thing. And if somebody else chooses to do it, and you decide that you're not going to do it, then you are in your place of growth. Because it's so easy to go to that old place. It's so easy because it's wired. Because we're wired to go to that negative place and have been since birth. I mean, our whole society is wired to be negative. So we have to conscientiously change that energy and that mindset and look through situations through another lens. And we always have a choice. We can look through the negative lens, and then, or we can look through the positive lens. But sometimes we have to look through the negative lens first to see the reality of what's going on. And then we can change it, reframe it, and transform it. Okay, so that's the 5 steps. So what we would like to do is to take you through a brief guided imagery for you to experience the 5 steps.
Okay, so We like to begin with a brief meditation by closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths. The first step is to take and create a safe place to tap into the qualities and characteristics you already have within. So what does that safe space look like and feel like? Take a moment to describe it to yourself and allow yourself to be there and life that is mildly frustrating for you. And see that person now in front of you. Think of a mild frustration from them that triggered negative feelings and thoughts within you. Now, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. You have now created a vacuum in that space between how this person frustrated you and how you can choose to respond more effectively as a source of safety. Now think of 3 possible ways to respond to this person who has frustrated you by asking for what you want to repair the rupture between you and them. Give yourself a few moments to think about what you want to invite. Remind yourself that you are a choice to stay stuck or to do something different that supports the experience you want by showing up as a source of safety. Take 3 more deep breaths and open your eyes.
All right, welcome back. So we're curious about what came up for you, and what we'd like for you to do is to share that in the Solivity chat box or response box. And we'd like to get some feedback about what happened for you. And with that in mind, that reminds me of a question that we received before the show. And the question was about, what do you do when someone that you really, really love, you're trying to have a conversation with them and they are so upset you can't talk to them? And I think we answered the question in terms of the 5 steps. And it's really good for both people to be open to doing that. But if only one person is open to doing that, they can do it on their own. Because the most important thing is to get into a peaceful place.
Right.
Because sometimes people don't know their impact. And especially when they're upset, they're just in a zone someplace. And they have blind spots to their impact on another person. And so you can still use the part of that once you get into a centered place to ask the person for exactly what you want. But even before that, this might not be the easiest part, but maybe even before that, to ask the question that Jesse used to ask me. I have an answer now, but I sure didn't in the beginning, to ask them what is it that they want, that you care about what's going on with them, and how can you support them? What is it that they want? And sometimes, because everybody's not like me in the beginning, some people know. Like sometimes people just want to be heard. I just want you to hear me out. Sometimes that's what it is. But in the asking, that will shift the energy in the moment. Like I said before, it takes 2 people to be a part of that. With that in mind, what we'd like to let you know is that we are inviting couples to have a private, complimentary, meaning free, telephone consultation with us to support taking the next step. Like, we learned how to do these steps and a whole lot more because of our professional work, and also doing it personally, because how can you teach this and not do it?
Right.
You know, so, and we know that information is really important, and information often is not enough. And so we're offering 5 complimentary telephone consultations a week for the next few weeks. And one thing that those consultations are going to do is, number one, support the couples who sign up for it and that we meet with, to get an idea about how to take the next step toward becoming a source of safety. And the other part is we are developing an online coaching class for couples. And actually, for couples, but anyone who's in any kind of relationship, because you need somebody to have the conversation with,
Right.
to implement the tools that we're going to be teaching. So, Mr. J, so let's review. Let's review what it is that we shared with you today. So the first thing that we did, so there are 3 fundamentals that we want to change, that we want to share over the next 3 weeks. Now, there are more, but these are 3 basics. So the first one is the fundamental of safety and becoming a source of safety in relationships. We did answer a question. We did have the reflective guided imagery. And then we're offering the complimentary consultation. So click on the website, go to jesseandmelva.com. And when you go to that website, there is a tab for contact us. Just fill out that form. We'll get the information. We'll be good to go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, you should be aware that we only have a certain limited number of these free complimentary consultations. So our suggestion is, if you are interested in that, then you should act promptly to make that request.
So thanks again for joining us. I'm Melva Thomas Johnson.
I'm Jesse Johnson.
We'll see you next time. I was trying to stay on time.